Logan City Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways across the City of Logan. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, please be aware that this presentation contains images and names of deceased people. Some of the materials contain terms which reflect the author's views or those of the period which the item was written or recorded, but may not be considered appropriate today. These views are not necessarily those of the Logan City Council. While the information may not reflect the current understanding, it is provided in a historical context. Hello everyone, my name is Hilda McLean and I'm the Local Heritage Specialist for the Logan City Council. Today I'm going to give a short presentation on how you can find out about your mob from home. The purpose of today is not to help you identify individual Indigenous ancestors, but to help you find out more about where they came from and what their lives were like. First of all, I need to give you some background on how Aboriginal people were treated in the 1890s onwards. The Queensland Government introduced the Aborigines Protection and the Restriction of Sale of Opium Act in 1897. This created reserves for the purpose of preventing Aborigines from contacting and intermixing with other peoples. The 1897 Act also was meant to provide protection for Aborigines against exploitation, especially in the pearling and beach demure industries. However, the Act quickly became oppressive. It implemented tight controls over Aborigines and decreed segregation, which was strictly enforced by the local protectors. These were usually the local police officers. Protectors were appointed for each district and had virtually complete control over the lives of the Aborigines in their district. So what did it mean to be living under the Act? The Act and its subsequent amendments controlled where people could live, what work they could do, and how much of their wages they physically received, who they could associate with, who they could marry, which generated a sizable quantity of correspondence and records, not all of which were kept. Now, very little of this material has been digitised, but there are some indexes available online. If you'd like to read more about the acts that controlled Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the state or territory which you live, you can find this data at the website on the slide here. Now, of recent time, a great deal of material has been collected by the Queensland State Archives, and they're starting to digitise these collections so you can look at them from home. Here is an example from their catalogue under the ATSI, the ATSI collection. For example, if you know that you have ancestors who attended either the Mayora or Purga Aboriginal State Schools, the original admission registers have now been digitised, and you can browse them page by page as if you were turning over the pages of the actual book. Another very useful resource that's recently been digitised is called the Aboriginal War Census Returns. These are also available to be searched from home online. These are arranged by district. So if you know where your ancestors may have been living, you can browse through the pages because many people appear under different names or shortened names. You may know them as Alfred, but they may simply appear in the register as Fred, Frank instead of Francis, or they may have their own nicknames. So it's a case of you better going to the district where the census return was taken and just having a look at the page. You may find a number of family connections all in the same place. If, for example, you know that you have service men and women in your family tree, go to the Australian War Memorial. They have a special section called Indigenous Service, where they have gathered together the records of over 2,000 people. There, you can place in the name and you'll often get links to either a photograph or records about in the Indigenous service personnel, and these go from the Boer War right through to the present-day conflicts. Here we have pictured Trooper Frank Fisher, who served during World War I, and he happens to be the great-grandfather of Olympian Cathy Freeman. Another place you can find resources from about Aboriginal people is the State Library of Queensland. They have their own special Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history page. And they have some very useful step-by-step guides. And they cover such topics as education, living on reserves, links to photographic resources. Another place you should go is also the National Library of Australia. They have a special First Australians section, and what they have done is they have gathered a vast array of resources from around Australia. And these include photographs, language samples, maps, and biographical information about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, as well as including such items as newspapers. Simply a case of just once you get to the First Australians landing page, just put in the title or the place or the name of the person you are interested in looking for. Recently, they have put together one very powerful tool to help you find particularly individual people. And this is the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander Biographical Index. It's simply a case of landing on this page and putting in the name of the person that you are interested in. And it will give you a list of places and resources which you can click on. It will also link up people who appear in the index with other people who are related. So this is a very easy way to expand your family tree. Another very useful resource that's being hosted by the National Library of Australia is the Torres News. This newspaper started in 1957 as a couple very simple photo-romeoed copied pages, but it grew into this newspaper. It contains lots of information about births, deaths, and marriages, and goings on with people coming and going from the various Torres Strait Islands. But perhaps the biggest collection of resources which you can just browse at home comes from the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies, located in Canberra. Called IASIS for short, it has a huge array of resources. It has resources which you can search through, and it has resources you can just browse. And one of the resources which is very popular to browse is the Koori Mail. It commenced in 1991 and it is being digitised progressively, so issues from 2021 are already online. Also on the IASIS website is the Australian Evangel magazine. It is one of the newsletters from the Aborigines Inland Mission, and this ran for several decades. It is absolutely full of photographs and information on baptisms, burials and marriages of people from all over Australia. Another useful magazine that has been digitised is the Dawn magazine. Although it says primarily a magazine for Aboriginal people from New South Wales, it did include quite a bit of South East Queensland content. Again, it is full of photographs of high quality and lots of information in the form of snippets, just saying who married who and who welcomed a new child into the world and where people were living and working at the time. It is particularly good for mapping sporting achievements as well. And after a short hiatus, it returned in the form of New Dawn. Again, like the Dawn, it covers the same content, but has quite a deal more material from all over Queensland as well as in New South Wales. One of the most useful resources which is available, and this is for both living and deceased people, is the Indigenous Australia Biographical Database. It is hosted by the Australian National University, and it's simply a case of putting in the person's name either in the search box and searching under text, or putting in the name of a place or an event. It will search all fields. And then another place you can go is the various projects which have been put up privately. A particularly good one is Cherbourg Memory, collecting information, photographs and family stories from all people who were living at Cherbourg. Many of the other Aboriginal settlements have started to put up their own projects, so it's a case of looking for them by the name of the settlement and just seeing if they have placed together a website where you can contribute to your own contributions, or in the case of Cherbourg Memory, they have a very useful project where they have lots of unidentified photos and they invite you to perhaps put a name to a face. That's all the resources we're going to do today. Now, let's have a closer look at them by doing some online searching. Now, let's have a closer look at the Koori Mau on the IASIS website. You can browse the collection simply by scrolling down and having a look at the covers. This is particularly useful if you just want to have a look at something that's been published in the last couple of months or so. If you want an event that happened in, say, 2002, just enter 2002 and hit apply. And then you will find the issues from 2002 will come up. And once you find an issue you're interested in, say for example, the NAIDOC Awards from 2002, you just click on the cover image of the newspaper and then you'll see this reader will open up. So it's just a case, just like you were reading a hard copy newspaper, just click on the next page arrow, which you'll find on the right hand side, and you can read through the paper. And if you find an article that you're particularly interested in, you can use the controls at the bottom. You can zoom in. You can use your little hand icon to drag the image around and you can make it larger. You can then also download the page that you're looking at as a PDF file onto a USB stick and then take that image away. So here's a case that we're looking at the honouring of a leading Northern Territory educator. So again, you can scroll in and zoom in till the text is large enough for you to be comfortably reading it. And so you either can read the story, or if you click on those three dots, you can download that story as a PDF file. And we can now open that file where it gives you the prompt to open the file. And you'll see that it has actually in fact downloaded the entire newspaper. But there you go, there's the story that we're interested in. So now you have a file which you're able to print the page you want, or you can save just the page you're interested in as well. So that is how to look up stories in the Koori Mau. So you just go through the left button if you want to go backwards, or the right button if you want to go forwards. And then if you want to close that issue and have a look at another issue, just go to the cross in the top right hand corner where you can then close the particular issue, and that will take you back to the page where you had your issues from 2002. So you will find that you may not have all the issues on the same page, so just keep an eye on the bottom and it will let you know how many pages you will find the issues on.